3 of the NFL slate. Lots of important things to discuss over the course of the next hour. Lots of chalk plays and also our own crunches and then lineups built that we're going to discuss over the course of the next hour. I'm Chris Spags, joined by my pal who's currently sweating and dying by Liverpool's success or failures, the Chubster, Josh Engelman. How are you doing, Josh?
I'm in a much better mood than I was like 5 minutes ago when I thought it was going to be 1-1 and now it's 2-0. So it's a great day. Love Sundays.
Yeah, no, Hey, Premier League. It is Premier League, right?
It is Premier League.
Okay, the Premier League Sundays with a little football. That's a nice way for them to go about it, where you get your little teaser, your appetizer plate before you get to the NFL. I like how that works out.
No, this is like eating dessert before a really terrible meal.
That is sure. I mean, well, the NFL is not a terrible meal, of course not. You know, it's especially not a terrible meal when you're partnering with Hooters to give the largest contest in the world of rake-free daily fantasy, as our friends over at Fantasydraft.com are. And of course, they are the presenting sponsor of the show and a great supporter of what we do here at Osmo. So go check them out right now. They're bringing the heat again. With both their wings and also the $750,000 guaranteed rake-free contest, the Hooters main event. This is the largest and only rake-free contest of its kind you will find for week 3. Remember, only on Fantasy Draft are 100% of entry fees paid out to contest winners. So go to fantasydraft.com right now and use the promo code AWESEMO, AWESEMO, to get your free 7-day trial of your first $1,000 in rake-free entries. And I'm sure that tournament right now is going to have some open seats. Josh, how are you feeling about the world of rake in your life? I know you are trying to take big advantage of some of the massive overlay we've had in some of these tournaments.
Yeah, I'm working on my fantasy draft lineups right now. One of the 2 places that I'm playing today, and I'm not playing at Fanduel or on Draftkings. Taking advantage of the best contests.
That is fair. All right, yeah, go to fantasydraft.com. Personally endorsed by the Chubster Josh Engelman. You can see his smiling face next to a Hooters girl on fan. That would be great though if we did.
By the way, fantastic transition into that Hooters plug.
Thank you. You know, despite it being 9 a.m. out here and me being really, I feel extra fat faced. I got Chick-fil-A too late at night yesterday. I feel terrible after a day of drinking and eating French dip sandwiches. I don't know, man.
I did see that French dip. Was it good? I saw it on.
It was
Instagram.
Really good.
Okay.
It was it's this place Kohl's, which is like they claim to be the originator of the French dip, which I find hard to believe. Like a downtown LA place made up the French dip sandwich, but it was really good. It was like a. So did you know that lamb has market price, like where it's like seafood, where it has different prices per day?
No.
So apparently lamb is market price because it is a premium meat. I learned yesterday. I was like, that's bizarre, but apparently the prices fluctuate for lamb on a day-to-day basis. But I was with somebody. We both got one of the sandwiches. She got a roast beef. I got the lamb one. It was really good. Dipping your sandwich into stuff is a delight. I think more things should be dipped in general.
We've got a place here called South College Deli that has a beef on weck that is fantastic. Dipping anything into anything is great. Dipping a grilled cheese into a soup, fantastic. Who doesn't like dipping things into other things?
Yeah, I mean, in every walk of life, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree. It was a great sandwich, so I'm really motivated here, but feeling real food bloated. But the one thing that won't bloat you up are the ownership project. I don't know. That was a terrible transition.
I should have never gave you any credit, man. Now you're trying to push it too far.
That's the nature of the beast here. But we have some bloated ownership for some guys up here. One of whom, let's talk about it up front. And we usually talk quarterbacks, but I do feel like with the Eagles situation in particular, we do kind of need to hit on this because it looks like Nelson Aguilar is going to be the chalk play of the week industry-wide. Obviously, when you have a skill position player, it does tend to be a spot where you can maybe avoid them, try to find some pivots, maybe go to guys like Mac Hollins or a J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, because we are not going to have Alshon Jeffrey or Deshaun Jackson out there for the Eagles. But I like Nelson Aguilar quite a bit, and I want to just talk about him fast because I think he's a play a lot of people will be just cramming into lineups because he's so cheap, especially on Draftkings. How are you feeling about Aguilar this week?
Hard to not like him. You just have to be really careful if you're building by hand, then everything that I'm about to say is pretty useless. But if you're using an optimizer, you have to be very careful about how you build groups with Nelson Aguilar, because he's going to make you get Carson Wentz in a weird amount of lineups that you wouldn't normally get otherwise. So I like Aguilar a lot, but I don't necessarily see it as a spot where you need to like group these guys up.
Okay, yeah, I would agree with that too. I did get some Wentz because it did seem illogical to have Aguilar and Ertz in lineups and not go to Wentz, especially given that Wentz's ownership isn't that crazy. But I did hear you and Manny talking about that on the Friday show, and yeah, I think, if you're trying to separate your quarterback ownership, I think you are going to get a lot of Wentz if you are grouping those guys together. But I think Aguilar's in a nice spot. He's running a ton of routes. He's running over 40 routes per game, getting deep targets as well. So I think he does, to me, seem like decent chalk, at least as good chalk as a wide receiver can be, whose roles are kind of fungible and fluid by the week. I'd prefer Ertz, but I'm okay with that value price for Aguilar and him being that chalky.
Yeah, he's just priced like he's not a number one wide receiver on a team now. And anytime you see that sort of inefficiency, clearly a fantastic cash play. I don't see him as particularly necessary in GPPs, but he clearly makes everything work if you want to.
Yeah, I think for me too, especially with how much I'm paying up at running back, I think it's been easier for me to get there with Aguilar. And I think there are a couple pivot points at his price. Guys like James Washington, who I think could be interesting, playing with his former college teammate now. And a guy who's also been really good for him in the preseason. You got Devin Smith as well, and that Miami game is a little bit cheaper. There are some other places to go, and Matt Collins and JJ Arcega-Whiteside, those guys are both cheaper than Aguilar. So certainly makes sense to build lineups with those guys as well if you are going to have a lot of Aguilar. But I think people are kind of going, oh, he's bad chalk. He's getting shut down. People are afraid of Darius Slay, who is not a shutdown corner. I guess he hasn't given up a touchdown in 2 games. That doesn't make a shutdown corner, but people will believe what they believe. Wait, hold on. Somebody's talking about French dip sandwiches in the chat. I just need to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about the quarterbacks, though, because obviously that is the key position when you're starting to build all these things. And it looks like ownership-wise, we're going to have the most ownership going to Dak Prescott this week, obviously in the smash spot versus Miami, the one in which you would expect him perhaps to not throw quite as much because it does seem like a situation in which they should be able to build that big lead fast. Doesn't mean Dak can't get there early and then just ride it out. But I'm not as big on Dak. I'm huge on Zeke. How are you feeling about Dak this week as a top-owned QB play?
I mean, I get it. Like, it's like the greatest spot you can possibly ever have. But would you be surprised if Zeke had all the volume? No. They can get it from anywhere here. Would it shock? Like, it wouldn't shock me if Cobb had 2 TDs because they're so bad. I can see Prescott having like a fantastic. Would you be surprised if he went like 15 of 18 for 210 and 2 touchdowns, but they happen to win like 30-0 with a defensive score and a Zeke score? It's a really hard game to plot out because they should stomp them, but this game might be over after the first quarter, and at which point you kind of got to figure out who's going to get the touches after that. Would it even shock you if Zeke played 75% of this game? I don't know what to do with it.
I think Zeke's going to get enough in there. It's hard for me to believe he doesn't see, even if he's only in there for 3 quarters, or we do see more Tony Pollard kind of sprinkled in. I just find it hard to believe he doesn't get his way to a couple touchdowns and maybe around maybe 100 yards does seem like the goal, but even if he got to like 80 and 2 scores for Zeke, I think that I'd be pretty okay with that, even at his elevated price. But I don't know. That's just sort of that's my inkling though. But I think your point about Dak is fair. He's been really good though. He's running the ball extremely well. He had that gigantic run last week. He's done some really nice stuff, passing the ball with really good success in every position. Actually, not great under pressure, but Miami's not going to pressure him anyway, so that doesn't really matter. But yeah, I think just the risk of Dak maybe not getting enough, I'd be more inclined to trust Zeke than I would Dak, and also Amari Cooper for that matter.
I agree with you. I agree. Cooper scares me. Cooper could break this slate in 2 separate ways, whereas I don't really see like anybody else with that sort of ability. Cooper could break this slate by being fantastic in a spot where he should be fantastic, or just because everybody else beats them except for Cooper. And then you're sitting there with, 6 fantasy points or something.
Yeah, I think it's not a tough spot for Cooper. Obviously, going against Miami is going to be a great situation, but at his price, he's one of the higher priced wide receivers on the slate. I mean, I think this week you have guys like Julio Jones cheaper than him. That can be a tough spot for him, or at least a perilous spot if things don't go perfectly for him, even though he does have that monster upside. Let's see. Who else at QB is getting the most ownership? Go down the list here. My sheet is running like dog shit. We got some ownership going to Patrick Mahomes in a weather issue game. People a little bit concerned about the spot. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, but he's going against the Ravens defense who, even though they are down their top 2 corners from the preseason, they are still a team who does bring good pressure, does do a good job for the most part scheming around stuff. Are you going to be paying up for Mahomes today? Because it is a price point where if you are trying to get to Zeke or McCaffrey or some combination therein, it's going to be tough to get to him and them.
I don't have him on Fantasydraft. I do have him in Yahoo. I prioritized 5 quarterbacks on Yahoo. Matt Ryan, Phillip Rivers, Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson. Oh, make that 6. Deshaun Watson, Jameis Winston, and Mahomes. Those are the only 6 that I have. On Fantasy Draft, I don't have him in limited lineups. I'm playing 30 lineups on Fantasy Draft and 28 on Yahoo. 28 is when the Liverpool game started, and I didn't want to enter lineups any longer.
No, that is a fair approach here. Your fingers can only handle so much.
I was just like, you know what? It's 11:30. I quit. I'm turning around to watch the game.
So yeah, I think Mahomes obviously certainly a play that's had a high ceiling in pretty much every spot. We saw what he can do even against a team that does kind of slow down the pace in Oakland last week. He still put up a 4 touchdown quarter. The upside's there. The rain certainly not the best situation, but it's hard to believe Mahomes doesn't get there. But at his price point, I don't know that he has the massive ceiling you need to get there price wise. And I think from a lineup construction standpoint, especially because of some of the guys you mentioned as well, I find it a little bit harder to get there to those guys because to Mahomes, because I just think you could get to Jameis, you could go to Josh Allen, you could go to his not brother Kyle Allen, who's at 4K. There's a lot of ways you can open up value at quarterback this week, which you might need.
Yeah, I just try not to worry too much about it. I'm way more I'll let the quarterback just show up, essentially. It's so hard.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's so hard to pick that. I know that's a really stupid way for me to say that, but I look at that list and it's like, okay, any one of these guys could be the guy that concentrates the output. And you see that when you look at quarterback value calculations. The difference between, number 1 and let's say number 2 and number 10 is marginal at best. So I love to let the skill position players dictate where I'm going at quarterback instead of the other way around.
Okay, that makes sense. So speaking of skill position players, and this one guy who's picking up a good amount of ownership, does make sense with the prices for the guys he has a receiver. Kyler Murray, going to be one of the top owned quarterbacks, it looks like, according to our ownership projections at Awesemo.com, which of course you can get at Awesemo.com/join. Use the promo code live before lock for half off your first month of Awesemo Plus. And also check out our new weekly packages. We have ones that are just $3.95, $3.95 a week. They include a grade form of both the ownership projections and the player projections. So a little more simple for the guys out there who just want to bust out a couple lineups and not do the crunching that Josh and I and many of our staff do. So go check that out at Awesemo.com/join. But Kyler Murray, I don't know if he was in your list. I think you went by him fast, and my brain is very slow today. Is he in your list of guys?
Not on Yahoo, but I do have him on Fantasy Draft, although he's the second chalkiest quarterback on Fantasy Draft. So I have half of the field there, but he is still showing up for me. It's just, I think it's a really good spot. I mean, there might be a million plays in that game.
Yeah, I mean, the pace too, the actual 2 fastest paced teams in the league right now. You could expect it to come down a bit with Kyle Allen in there instead of Cam Newton, but still playing at an extreme pace, and pace does matter in the NFL because we've seen a lot of plays being run, a lot of targets for Larry Fitzgerald and Christian Kirk. I'm going to assume those guys are the main ones you'd be stacking up with Kyler.
Yes, nailed it.
Any David Johnson?
It's three guys. It's David Johnson, it's Fitz, it's Kirk. There's no one else.
Yeah. I mean, Fitz and Kirk are they're not certainly going to hit the same highs, I would think, week to week, but they do kind of have the volume that Diggs and Thielen had last year. Both guys getting over 10 targets per game. Larry Fitz, a better player in the beginning of the year, as you might expect over the course of the last few years, because he's an older player. But this is the time really to be playing Larry Fitz. And Christian Kirk, there was one play I saw on Twitter overnight where they're using him in really creative ways where they ran I know this stuff, I know you could care less about this stuff, but it is interesting for people out there who like the football stuff. As you might watching an NFL live before lock shift.
Sure.
But Christian Kirk ran a screen inward, he ran a motion he was going to screen inwards and then flanked back out the other way, and they were just so confused. The opposing defense was so confused because nobody does that, but it's such a logical thing to do. And he ended up having a big gain, getting that taken down within the 2-yard line. They're using him in more inventive ways, and I think it was Andy Benoit from MMQB who was breaking it down, and he was saying there's a decent chance Arizona's going to do more of that, and if they do, that's an inventive look at an offense, and using Kirk in different ways certainly gives him more value, even though Larry Fitzgerald's been the higher upside guy so far.
I feel like Larry Fitzgerald is 600 years old.
He's ageless. He has the Medusa hair, so maybe that's it.
Fair. That's fair. God, I'm getting a ton of George Kittle.
See, okay, I'm not there at all. So George Kittle is just not running routes this year. He's running 20 routes per game. You have Ertz at the same price point. Ertz gets a ton of targets when Alshon Jeffrey is out. We saw that happen last week. I find it hard to get to Kittle. I know he's going to have some ownership, but I guess give me your case for, I guess, just price and the fact that he's been good.
Yeah, I expect him to be the main event eventually in San Francisco. I would say that he is clearly the best pass catcher, or at least you would expect him to be. Everybody else just feels like a reach, but I didn't expect to be getting him in the majority of my lineups on Fantasy Draft. That's for sure. No
Yeah,
Ertz.
no Ertz. Is he priced much more on there?
Not really. $1,600. I mean, he's not even the most expensive tight end. He's still behind Kelsey. I have a bunch of Ertz on Yahoo, so let me be specific there, but not getting him in my top end lineups on Fantasy Draft.
Yeah, so I guess it makes sense with that much of a discrepancy on Fantasy Draft. On DK, it's $100 price point. So
Right.
and you're talking, I mean, Ertz is running 41 routes per game. Kittle's running 21. I think San Francisco has realized that it doesn't, Garoppolo is maybe not going to be his best, at least right now, as a high volume passer. And I think you're kind of seeing that with the results where we saw Goodwin have some decent plays last week, but he still wasn't getting a ton of volume. Nobody in that offense, I think, is predestined to be getting a lot of volume. And Kittle's can certainly do a lot with a little, but I'm really not the most encouraged with what we've gotten from him so far. He still has a tight end. He's got great targets. He can break a play and open at any time. But 21 routes per game is not good for a guy who you want to have that big volume and that big upside.
I'm honestly surprised that he's showing up as much as he is, for the simple fact that it's not happening because he's coming back on the Steelers. Like,
Right.
I'm not exactly stacking up a lot of Pittsburgh. So that's concerning to me. I don't know why it's happening as easy. So I'm tweaking it a little bit to try and drop him down. Hopefully that'll pull up Ertz in some way. But that's where we're at right now.
No, it makes sense. Yeah, just to me, I guess that'd be my preference on DK because I think it is a much closer call there where you have the $100 difference. And there's some tournament value in going to Kittle, but I think there's been enough things for me that look a little bit concerning with just the volume that I, would like to see improve. And they are not currently improving. Not getting many deep targets either. You got to have something here that I want to see Kittle show me. And that could be a week late. But with Ertz at that price point, I just find him impossible to avoid.
I hear you.
Uh,
I agree with you on DraftKings, by the way.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I'm glad. Let's talk about the other guy in the KC game because he's also going to be pretty decently owned, Lamar Jackson. And then we can talk about I'm sure your bell of the ball, Jameis Winston. Lamar Jackson, it's a rainy game there, but that could actually benefit Lamar because he's a guy who can run and will pick up that yardage. Did run really well against Kansas City in their playoff game. Did run really well last week, and he does have some obvious stack targets with Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown. Two guys who've looked fantastic so far. Marquise Brown also increasing his route tree, running some shorter routes in week 2, getting more snaps. All that bodes really well for him and as the season goes on, and possibly being the number 1 receiver. Are you getting any Lamar and his little pass catchers? His little pass catchers.
No Lamar today. I don't think that this spot fits him very well. Weather aside, I guess. I just don't think he's like that good of a quarterback. He's a great fantasy option. I don't think that this spot is the type of game that makes him great. If the Chiefs get out in front, I mean, this could get ugly. You don't want him to have to throw.
You don't want him to have to, but I think the fact that he's shown he can do it and he's improving in that respect and also been finding good success. I mean, they also put some talent around him there where Miles Boykin is a guy that really haven't broken out either, but he's also been looked pretty good in preseason, looked pretty good overall. So I think there's still upside for Lamar, but I think the weather there, and it's not a great team total. Like it does spook me a bit. I don't want to get kind of caught with my pants down with 7K Lamar and then just hope he kind of grits out a 20-point day, which is not the ideal spot.
Has he proven he can throw? Can we even use that Dolphins game as any sort of like functional information?
I thought he could throw last year too. I mean, he wasn't fantastic, but I think he could throw better than they allowed him to. And I think they're starting to do that more. He didn't look great passing it last week, but he didn't get the best results, but he's still, in terms of QB rating in every situation, he's right there. When he's pressured, he's still throwing well. When he's on the run, he's still throwing well. When he's throwing deep, he's still throwing well. So all the signifiers I would look for are there. I think he can be better. I just think the rain, it just seems like it might be more of a slog type game. Even though they'll still find ways to put up points, I'm sure it's hard to bank on this having the high upside and the track meet you'd want to see.
YouTube chat seems to love that. Josh clearly isn't watching the same Lamar. He played a college team in the first week, and I don't exactly think that the Cardinals are spectacular either. Was he solid last week? Yeah, of course. But we can't take anything away from the Dolphins game. And everyone is taking everything away from the Dolphins game here. This is a guy that was not supposed to be a good throwing quarterback and isn't miraculously one now because he got 5 touchdowns in the first week of the regular season. I'm sorry. He's still the worst throwing quarterback that will start a game today.
We got Luke Falk. We got too many guys out there, I think, for you to say that claim.
He is the worst throwing quarterback that'll start a game today. If he wasn't, he wouldn't have gone 31st or whatever in the draft. He would have been the number 1 pick. Nobody ever doubted his athleticism, but he fell because he can't throw. He can't. He's not suddenly amazing at it. That doesn't make him not a good fantasy quarterback. Let me be clear here. I'm just saying, like, we need more information other than a Dolphins game.
I just don't think he's that bad. I think for the guys that we have who are throwing out there. I mean, look, Lamar, you're right. Lamar has faced a really bad team so far this year. And last week he didn't show as much as he did in Miami, but I think he's showing some decent ability to not make mistakes, which is a big part of it. And his volume isn't high enough, but I think he can throw into space, and I think he has the talent around him. His vibe with Mark Andrews, I think, is a very noteworthy connection that should continue to be there in most matchups. So I'm more of a believer than you, but I get it. But I also, I think these guys can improve, but I think sometimes they don't. Like Jake Locker is the best example of it, where he got drafted really high many years ago and was just a guy who had a terrible completion rate in college, and his completion rate never jumped in the pros, because most guys, I think, don't. But if you're getting guys who are really burners, who are fast, who can get behind guys, I think that's what Lamar has, and you just kind of have to air it up and be in range. And he's been accurate. His accuracy rating from PFF is not bad.
Let's see where he's at in 6 weeks.
Here's a fun stat, actually. His accuracy rating, which means the throws that he's responsible for. So, like, if he's putting it on a guy's body and it drops, it doesn't matter. 79%. Right behind him is Patrick Mahomes at 77. 2 games, though. 2 games.
1 game.
It's been 2. It's been 2 games.
Sure.
I just, look, I think he's a good play, but I think you wanting more to see more of it, I think, is a fair take, though.
I mean, I just think this is a bad spot for him. Hard to not like him in that Dolphins game. Hard to not like him in that Cardinals game. I don't think that this game plays well for him one way or the other.
Yeah, that's fair. People see this is one part of it which I do like. You really can't hit on it, but I do think there is a bit of a racial component to it too. I think you got to acknowledge that not from you, but from the media and how they treated him coming out. There's a little bit of that too, which I think is, but that's obviously not this show. But I think the people in YouTube chat, people are really engaged by this take. We need to throw out more hot takes and argue it like PTI.
Ravens coach said Lamar changed his throwing motion in the offseason. Obviously worked on it. Yeah, have you seen that throwing motion? It looks like shit. He short arms the damn ball. He looks like me when my elbow hurt when I was in high school. Look, his throwing motion is garbage. If somebody's trying to say that it's anything other than garbage, we can stop right there. He does not throw the ball well. It looks terrible. I don't think that's a hot take at all.
Well, I just hope Team Lamar knows, the Lamar Hive. I hope you guys all know I'm on your side. Me and Lamar Jackson, a couple people's champs. But I think people are right. It is weird how people do hate on Lamar, but I get from you, and as a data guy, you want to see more. I get it. I think that's a fair take, but I think he's showing it this year, and he's got 15 more weeks to show it, plus the postseason. So we'll see.
There are a few people that are like, yeah, I understand what you're saying. He doesn't throw the ball well.
I just think it was a tough take to me to be like, he's the worst throwing QB on the slate on a week where we have like Luke Falk, and I'm playing Kyle Allen, but I mean, he was a bunch of ballyhooed recruit who should be more accurate, but still, like, we have enough guys out here. Daniel Jones can be out there. I think I wouldn't say it's the right week to put that take out there, but still, not a bad argument. Speaking of shitty throwers, Jameis Winston. He's actually been bad this year, to be clear, and last year. So he's been showing nothing, but now getting the prime spot of all prime spots going against the Giants. You mentioned you're going to have some of them. Why are you a believer in Jameis this week, besides the stellar matchup and a nice price?
You basically explained it right there.
I guess those are the reasons why.
It's stellar matchup, great price, 2 wide receivers that can obviously have monster days. Maybe the Giants have like some functionality on offense just because Eli, the statue, isn't back there, and they can, like, I don't know, maybe move the ball. I have no idea. I can't get away from Jameis at that price. Although he might be out of the league like Cam soon enough if these guys can't get healthy or do anything functional. I don't know. Those two guys are like the biggest enigmas in my head. Obviously, Cam doesn't matter now that he's not playing today. But would you be surprised if Jameis Winston is in the league next year?
I would be a little bit, just because he was drafted so high and he's not. I mean, if this stuff hasn't submarined him so far, he's had so many personal issues and still also not been that great throwing it. Like, I think he'll get another shot somewhere. Like, he'd be a funny guy to have in the XFL, I think, but still not a person who I think will be out of the league. He's had the gilded parachute and like the golden parachute, whatever you want to call it, in pretty much every situation. And I don't see him failing in that respect. I can see the Bucks cutting ties with him for sure.
People in chat are like, "Oh, Phillip Rivers' throwing motion is bad." Phillip Rivers has been in the NFL for 15 years. He's made it work now. We have that body of evidence. If Phillip Rivers was still throwing like garbage and just suddenly had the Dolphins and the Cardinals in his second 2 games in his second year, it would be different. I would be like, yeah, I don't think that he's going to be able to maintain that garbage throwing motion. Phillip Rivers proved that he made it work. That's a terrible comp.
I think when you've made it in the league for 15 years, I think you're probably okay. That's just my
my gut. He got drafted in 2004.
Yeah, and he's outlasted all his other peers right now. Technically, I mean, assuming if like
no Ben, no Eli this week.
Yeah, so last man standing, Phillip Rivers, and good for him. But yeah,
cranking out those kids, man, keeping them young.
That's true.
67 children.
Oh boy. The chat is wild. YouTube chat, hit the like button, guys, because you're clearly engaged. So engage even more and hit that like button. We appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to not go to Jameis a ton, but I did not go to Jameis a ton, so I feel okay about it. I think that was more of a sanity choice, but from a value perspective, he does project to be the best value QB according to Osmo's projections. Not a ton of ownership, probably because people don't want to get burned again. I do have some stacks of him, though. I tried to get to him. The thing with him, it's tough to get to Osmo's kind of 2 receiver thing situation unless you really want to trust OJ Howard. Yeah. Like, you're paying a pretty decent price to go to Godwin and Evans, and that could be one thing that spooks me a bit off the stack.
Yeah, I got to a lot of Godwin on Yahoo. I have a little bit less on Fantasy Draft, but I think the Giants are terrible. Like, it's a really good matchup.
Yeah. Okay.
It's hard to get away from that for me.
Yeah.
I think we're seeing a situation where like the extremes are bigger now. Like, the bad is way worse right from the jump.
Across the board, or just within the situation?
I think maybe across the board. Like, I think I don't know if is it like others? Is it the NBA bleeding into other sports? The teams are more willing to just be bad, more so than they ever were before. I mean, the Dolphins literally lit this thing on fire.
Yeah, I agree. So I think the thing is, it's a combination of factors where teams are more willing to go down low to get where they need to be. Like, you talk about the Dolphins, the Giants as well. I think they're a bit of a combination of just, I don't know, a disharmonious locker room. That's also, the defense has gotten so much worse. I also think it's a combination of that and the fact that teams are throwing deep more. So when you're not kind of on the same page, your talent level isn't there. It's a really bad mix for teams that are trying to get more vertical, trying to kind of take those 3-point shot equivalents. And I think when you see that combined, you're seeing like these totals of spreads for this week. We didn't get these at all last year. I don't really recall there being like 20+ point spreads.
No, it's craziness to think about the Cowboys and the Patriots today.
Yeah, and I think people, one take though, which we need to do our 100 yards on the TD picks. I hope I have the sheet on here. But yeah, we need to talk about that in a second. But I want to talk real fast about the defenses, because people in the chat are saying like Cowboys D a lock play. People were saying that also in yesterday's stream. On the contrary, we did with Osmo and also with Mike Taglieri, who's a great guy to follow. Mike Taglieri NFL from Fantasy Pros. But people are like, the Dallas defense is a lock. You're paying so much to go to the Dallas defense today. Is that a move you're willing to make? Because I'm not. I think that Patriots thing last week was the Patriots, not just Miami giving up a ton.
I mean, they're hard to avoid, aren't they? I have a bunch. I think Miami is just really that bad that you should expect sacks and turnovers and the potential to take turnovers to the house. I understand why they're getting owned. I think that we're going to see basically every defense that faces the Dolphins get that sort of love moving forward, unless they show something else. Maybe a quarterback change will help that out. I doubt it. So I'm in for it. I feel more confident projecting a defense against someone like the Dolphins now than I do most other defenses, regardless of the actual defense talent. I think that how bad Miami is more predictable than defensive stats normally are.
So I think the thing for me is that I don't see Dallas generating a ton of pressure. They've gotten weaker in that front as well. And I think we could see a game like Baltimore had in week 1, like Baltimore steamrolled them. They had 13 fantasy points, which is fine. Like for a cash game play, if you want to just be safe as hell, I think that's great. I just don't think they have the takeaway ability, I don't think they're going to get the turnovers. I especially with Josh Rosen in there, like he sucks, but I think he's going to try to play a little more close to the vest because that's really his only shot at holding on to the job. So I don't know. I find it hard to pay for a defense as like a position player's price point unless you like really think they have gigantic upside. Like the Patriots, I did pay that price last week and that worked out. But this week, and I'm willing to pay the Patriots again this week against Luke Falk. But I think the Cowboys are a bit of a trap defensively.
I mean, I think that any chalky defense is probably going to be largely a trap. I think we're starting to see a very unique sign. Like Steven Smith in YouTube chat said, Dallas D-backs don't cause turnovers either. I don't think we're really needing any team to cause any turnovers. I think the Dolphins will be just fine causing them themselves.
Yeah, which is a fair take. It's such a high price. I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of surprised you're willing to go there because I do feel like you're usually a dice roll defensive guy where you're willing to take the super cheap ones and hope something pans out. So if you're willing to go there, that does give a pretty big cosign to him.
It's part of that what we said just before we started talking about defenses. I think the extremes are bigger now.
Yeah.
I think 5 years ago when it's just like, okay, this, you really do need. I don't think the bottom was ever this bad.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that's a fair take.
Until the Jets or the Dolphins win outright today, and then everything we said is stupid.
Yeah, when all the suicide pools were ruined because the Dolphins put up 40 points.
Could you imagine if the Dolphins beat the Cowboys, man?
That would be, as a Cowboys fan, that'd be hurtful, but it would be hilarious because I do have some Josh Rosen lineups. I have like a handful, not very many. Like I think 3 out of like fucking 80 or 100 lineups I put in today. But that's, yeah, it seems like a low probability outcome. Or like Luke Falk suddenly like beating the Patriots. I mean, it would just blow up everything, which would be hilarious. So I kind of want to root for that.
Oh yeah, I'd rather see that happen. It's just more fun to like watch people lose their minds over it.
I agree. All right, let's do our 100-yard picks. 100 yards at a TD, of course, the target that we're doing each week now. And even though you had a great pick last week, boy, did he get screwed by Drew Brees going out. Alvin Kamara didn't get there. John Brown, the closest guy, did not get there. 7 targets, 70-something yards. Didn't get the 50-yard touchdown bomb that would put him over the top, which hurt me very much.
You realize I caused this, right? I caused that Brees injury by trying to spite you with taking Kamara after you told me you were going to do it.
Oh, don't get the Saints fans against you today, too. That's going to be too.
Everybody's against the Saints, right?
No, the Saints will like sue you. They'll file a lawsuit because they'll be like, this guy, he just admitted it. He got Drew Brees injured by picking Alvin Kamara. But yeah, we didn't get our picks, and EMAC did not get his right with Juju Smith-Schuster. So let's get back on track this week. I'll let you go first because I want to see where you want to go, and you might take a very high-level guy. There's one obvious one, but
give me
first.
Zeke.
That's okay. You are going to go there, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
I need to get on the board here. If Zeke doesn't get 100 yards today in combined offense, I assume he got hurt like pretty quickly. It wouldn't he might. Yeah, it's Zeke. It's Zeke. That's all. I don't think that I'm making a huge take here. Sorry, should I take Lamar Jackson? Can he run and catch 100 yards too today?
That wouldn't be a bad pick. I guess I kind of want to go back to John Brown again, but it's so flimsy if you're going with Zeke. I got to go back to Christian McCaffrey.
I don't blame you.
Pace out the ass in that game, so that's what I'll be betting.
Second most exposed running back for me right now.
Yeah, I love him. He's going to be chalky. I don't care. I'll play a ton of them. We'll talk about the running backs in a second. We'll also see if EMAC has a pick for us here. Of course, our old pal always chiming in with.
I don't think EMAC's around.
No, he's in Slack.
Oh, is he? Okay, maybe he is around.
He just
Nope,
said if
never
Miami
mind.
wins,
Emac tagged me in a message 1 minute ago, so I should just
he said
shut
if
up.
Miami wins, we are definitely in a simulation.
I mean,
So
we're definitely in a simulation one way or the other.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. And in my simulation, Lamar Jackson can't throw worth shit.
It's just your simulation, though, not everybody else's. We are all in the Austin Eckler for old EMAC.
I like it. I like it a lot.
We're all going with volume-based. It seems like everybody's learned their lessons. Though we guess you did it in week 2. You did go with a theoretical volume-based running back who killed me. He killed so many of my lineups. How did that happen? How was Alvin Kamara that bad last week?
I don't know what it is, but this one feels so much less fun than the Dong picks.
Is it because I'm winning and clearly graded it?
No. It's just, I don't know. There's something about like the home run where it's very cut and dry. Whereas, if they go for like, I don't know, it's the touchdown piece sucks. I hate touchdowns in the NFL.
I do in my new video I'm doing, which by the way, you guys should be checking out. It's a short form breakdown of Osmo's NFL rankings that includes some of my kind of takes and a more four cornersy style for everything. We're doing now the giveaway for that. Free month of Osmo Plus is the giveaway we're doing for that one. I'm doing double touchdowns, which I don't know how easy or difficult it's going to be, but if Zeke gets 2 touchdowns this week, I'm gonna have a lot of sorting through comments.
Is he popular? I was shocked.
Yeah, he seems like he'll be well owned. So let's talk about the ownership on these guys because we do have. Oh crap! You know what? I didn't put my ownership on. So did I tell you I have to redo my entire sheet on this laptop and I didn't get everything perfect, and I do not have running back ownership perfectly laid out. So
at some point you need to learn how to save your stuff to the cloud, sir. This is 2019.
That would have been logical. Or for me to email myself it and do that. I panicked and was just like, I tried to do a backup and then it didn't work and it was a fucking nightmare.
Dropbox or Google Drive, man, or iCloud Drive, whatever it's called. One of those three things.
I need to do that. All right, I got the chalk running backs here. We got Christian McCaffrey looking to be the top owned guy. We just talked about him, but I think he's kind of a no-brainer spot. Arizona's run defense not looking too great so far. A ton of pace in this situation. The Bucs defense shut him down. I don't care. I'm willing to go back there because the volume's there, getting over 23 touches per game. Real fast. You're in on McCaffrey as well?
Yeah, 100%. Hard not to be, right? I mean, at least this quarterback can throw. That's not even a Lamar dig. I mean, Cam has been terrible. He is broken from top to bottom. So just having somebody back there that doesn't need like a cast on all 4 limbs, it will probably help him out a little bit. You would think.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm just going to look into that Week 17 game where he was incredible.
I mean, that's what I look into. But no, he's a guy who was a top recruit who ended up going to A&M, then transferred. I forget where he transferred. He transferred somewhere else. But he was a ballyhooed recruit when he did come out, and he's still a guy. He had that good Week 17, or at least a solid enough Week 17. And I think the pace is really what I'm looking for here. There's going to be a lot of play volume on both sides. And I think that's going to help out McCaffrey. And I think Kyle Allen is a fine guy to stack with him. Go to some DJ Moore, some Greg Olsen. I think Kyle Allen, he's so cheap. Like if he has a 20-point day and it opens up, you getting McCaffrey and Zeke in there. I think that's a pretty nice tournament construction to have.
I agree.
Speaking of, Zeke is going to be the number 2 on running back, it looks like. Are you putting him in lineups with McCaffrey, or are you just trying to get one of them and some of them? Because they are so high priced, it could be tough.
No, I don't have anything with both of them.
Interesting. Okay. I have a good amount with both.
I feel a lot better about McCaffrey getting his than Zeke getting his.
Interesting. Because of the blowout risk?
Yeah, like that game can just break weird. Where, like, I expect the Panthers game to be close. And no matter how the game plays out in Carolina, I think McCaffrey is involved no matter what. But if the Cowboys can very easily blow out Miami without Zeke being a part of it. Not that he's not fantastic. He's obviously the guy that I took for my 100-yard and TD pick. But if it becomes a big Cooper game and a big Randall Cobb game and Jason Witten scores 2 touchdowns inside the red zone, that makes sense to me. Miami's just so damn bad that it's so tricky.
It's hard to imagine Zeke not getting to somewhere you're comfortable with in cash, but for a tournament, it could definitely be a situation where if he gets you 20 points and like you have, Cook, who's a little bit cheaper going off, or Eckler, Emax pick going off, you have enough guys who can kind of exceed his day at a cheaper price, which could be tough.
Like I've got a bunch of Zeke on Yahoo. I would never avoid him because he could also break the slate the other direction. But it just feels a little bit more risky to me just because of how bad Miami is. That game could be
Yeah.
not competitive before the second quarter starts.
Yeah, I agree. That's a fair take to have.
Sure, the
Let's
Cowboys will
keep
like take the opening kickoff to the house or something stupid to really annoy everybody.
all the people who have the defense. I'm sure will be very excited to
Yeah,
be getting. What? What am I getting FaceTimed? What? Sorry,
Lamar
I have
Jackson.
no idea. He's calling in. This motherfucker slandering me on the show.
I'll show him. I went 10 of 25 in the rain today against the Chiefs.
Another running back who's going to be. Oh, it's my uncle. What the fuck is my uncle? Duh, I hate people when they don't know that I have a show schedule and they do shit like that. Austin Eckler going to be owned again. He's been smashing in every spot here. Maybe a price point that people won't get to as easily, I guess, if you are trying to go to him in the flex with McCaffrey and Elliott because he is high priced. How are you feeling about him? Because he looks like he's in a solid spot here. And this Houston game could be kind of a sneaky shootout.
Yeah, I have a lot of the Chargers. Rivers, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler. Probably my most exposure anywhere is going to the combination of those three guys. I love the Chargers today.
Yeah, I agree. He's been good. I'm done questioning him. The volume has been there, really involved in the passing attack, which is certainly going to add more value for the sites we're getting a full point PPR. So yeah, he looks like he's in a great spot and worth that. If you are trying to get a little cheaper and then go into him and Dalvin Cook, you are saving some money and have, I think, a comparable ceiling to McCaffrey and Zeke, and those guys both are looking pretty good. Cook, though, going to be just behind Eckler in ownership. How are you feeling about him?
I don't think I have any.
Price is up quite a bit, so I could see why you wouldn't land there.
Yeah. No, I don't have any on fantasy draft. I'd rather have Eckler at 14.7 than Cook at 14.6, and I know that I don't have him at all on Yahoo. I don't like great. I think he's good. At some point in time, when you're only playing, let's say 30 lineups on each site, people are just going to naturally like get trimmed out, and Cook happens to be one of them. I love the spot. Being at home against Oakland is fantastic for them. It wouldn't shock me. I get nervous with some of these teams that have so many weapons. Diggs can get it. Thielen can get it. Kyle Rudolph can soak that up in the red zone potentially. Cook should be involved on both sides of the ball, and if it gets out of hand, he's going to be toting the rock. I'm not super comfortable not having him, but it's just a spot where I have to start drawing a line in the sand somewhere. If I'm playing 150, he's clearly not a 0 for me.
Yeah, I think he's a worthwhile play. I mean, last week he became a contrarian play, which was great because he did have that volume again. Seeing 23.5 or 23 touches rather per game, which include 3.5 targets per game, so that's a pretty nice little spot for him as well. Yeah, I think Cook is pretty good. I still, the passing volume has still not been there for Minnesota, and I don't think they're going to need to up it today against Oakland. Just 5.5 targets per game for Thielen, 4.5 for Diggs. Even though Diggs can certainly break one at any time, I think Cook seems like a safe play to go to here, given that high total. Like, it's hard to imagine, for me, it's hard to imagine him not getting, in the upwards of 100 yards and a touchdown at least.
Yeah, he's one of the guys that I don't really have that would make a ton of sense killing me today. It's not a play that I'm comfortable with. It's just a DFS play.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I don't have anything negative to say about him. It's not like I'm negative against the spot. It's just how it worked out today. I don't have a hot take on it. It's just the output.
Anybody else you're getting? Because those are kind of the clearly most owned guys. I guess Chris Carson picking up some, but I'm not quite there. It seems like he's kind of getting, I wouldn't say getting squeezed out, but at his price point, I'd rather pay a little bit more and go to Aaron Jones. But anybody else you're getting at decent volume? I got some Frank Gore. I got some LaShawn McCoy. I got some of these guys, but not really anywhere near the volume of McCaffrey, Elliott, Eckler, or Cook.
I have a lot of Carson.
Really?
A lot of Carson. Yeah.
What is the reason?
Because Drew Brees isn't the quarterback of the Saints.
Okay. He is known for really holding down opposing running backs.
What I mean is, I don't think the Saints are particularly fantastic right now, which should lead to Seattle in a home game I would expect to be playing from out in front, at which point I think Carson just soaks it all up. I think it's just a really great spot against a Saints team that like hasn't been used to not playing Drew Brees at quarterback for a decade. So I don't know. We'll
Yeah.
see it. We'll see. He's my most owned running back.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I get it. I'm looking at the New Orleans defense for the year, giving up 5.6 yards per rush, and Carson's still getting 15 carries, which even if that does kind of stay a little bit low on that end, and with the targets he's gotten, that is certainly going to help him out too. Yeah, I get it. I didn't get there personally as much, but maybe that's a good thing. But could be a bad thing if he does go off and if he gets up like a Zeke or McCaffrey number at that dollar. That would not be good for me.
It's another thing, and I think this is probably something that gets slept on a lot, but you would expect the Saints defense to have to be on the field more. Drew Brees a lot more likely, I would say, to have long drives, slowly picking apart a defense, giving your own defense some time to catch a blow. I think you're much more likely to see quick turnover in offensive possessions from the Saints, which could matter a little bit more in the third and fourth quarters when they're not used to be running out there as much.
El Negro Loco posting in the YouTube chat, based off pregame warmups, Darrell Williams started running back for the Chiefs today. He was first in a run back line. They have a typo in here. It was followed in order by Darwin Thompson and LaShawn McCoy. Huh. Well, getting some Darrell
Williams, that's not fun for me.
No, I am going to. I mean, look, I think McCoy will still get touches, but that is odd. That's certainly. It does seem like it'd be worth right now throwing in. You got 12 minutes to lock. Might be worth throwing in some Darrell Williams just because if he's getting the lion's share of work, sure.
I'm gonna swap to that goon in the lineup here.
Yeah, I am too.
Just one. I don't want to overreact too much to it, so I'm only gonna do it once. But
yeah,
actually,
I have enough McCoy to give up a little bit to old Darrell with one L.
Same.
Darrell.
All right. If I pull that, who can I pop in that spot? Adams, Allen, Cooper. I don't like this. I'm not doing that lineup. Man, that is crappy news. That's just some shit news, for real.
It's not the most helpful news.
It's certainly not. It's certainly not. I really wish that wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess in the grand scheme of things, like it's not like I was excited to play LaShawn McCoy, so maybe I should take the free pass and get the hell out of there, but
maybe, yeah, I might pivot off.
I might going to get 6 touches today, and we're going to look back and want to stab El Negro Loco. I'm comfortable saying that because, we cool.
Did you give him a little soul brother pound for that?
He'll get the pound in the DMs. That's a weird thing to say out loud. Sorry, dude. I know you're probably listening. Sorry, that was a real creepy thing to say.
He'll get the pound in the DMs. That much is for sure.
Get the pound in the DM. Is that a Liverpool goal? Nope. Aston Villa 2-1. Okay.
Tell you what, Darrell Williams is real cheap.
Yeah, of course he is.
He is 3K. He is 3K flat.
He should be. You know what? Let's go ahead and. Do I want to take a flyer on Josh Gordon?
I got a few plays on him. I don't mind that.
I've got $20 to fill a wide receiver spot right now after dropping out on someone. All right. Oh, God. I know what you're going to say already. John Brown, Diggs, Josh Gordon, Galladay, Mike Evans, Lockett, Cooper Kupp. I'll let you pick.
I think it would be Galladay out of those ones, but John Brown is great. But he shouldn't be at the price point of Galladay. Galladay is he's been looking really good to me. And I think that spot they're going to have to score against Philly, I think.
Done. He's in. Yeah, Hector's saying trap. I agree, Hector.
Yeah. But, whatever. I'll have a little less McCoy, and I'll get in slightly more. I mean, I'll get in barely any amount of Darrell Williams and slightly more Chris Carson. So that seems fair. Yeah. All right. I'll live with that. All right. Let's talk about the wide receivers here because we did just kind of hint at them. We talked about Nelson Aguilar up top. Obviously, he was a very important guy to hit on. But wide receivers here going to have really not super concentrated ownership outside of those guys. Let me just make sure I got the most recent stuff here. Looks like the top owned receiver on the week besides Aguilar is going to be Keenan Allen. And we talked about Eckler before. Allen's also been looking comparably good this year in this Chargers offense, who, even when they aren't putting up a ton of touchdowns, still generating a good amount of fantasy points. How are you feeling about Keenan Allen? Because I'm under the field on him, but not deliberately. I just didn't get there.
He's my number one exposed wide receiver.
Oh, he looks great.
I have a ton, dude. I just have a ton of the Chargers. I have
I agree.
like a really stupid amount. But Rivers has the second highest top stack odds for fantasy draft behind Matt Ryan, not getting as much ownership, not really getting any on DraftKings either. So it's more of a play on Alex's top stack tool.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And they certainly would project well in this spot here where Houston can certainly put up points too. Are you running it back with any Texans? Because the Chargers defense really not looking great overall to start the year. And the secondary in particular, pretty banged up.
Yeah, some Hopkins coming back.
Okay. Yeah, which seems like the right call there.
Yeah. Don't mind. I might have one with Hyde coming back on the off chance that like Houston is out in front and the Chargers are the ones trying to catch up. So I'm okay with that as well.
Also, this is kind of surprising. Larry Fitzgerald right now projected to be the number 3 highest owned wide receiver, according to our projections at Osmo.com, which of course you can get at Osmo.com/join. That's high ownership for Larry. I kind of surprised by that. Yeah. 5,100 on DK, but still almost 20% projected ownership for him. It's a lot.
It is a lot. I mean, it's just that game, you know? It should be a track meet, and he's at a price where you don't feel as dirty taking him at like a cheaper price because of this for some reason. Like you're willing to take Lamar. Like you're willing to I can't get it out of my head. You're willing to take Larry Fitzgerald a little bit more than like feeling uncomfortable about someone like Aguilar or something.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that also a weird report in the chat, which I don't know how credible this is, but somebody posting in the premium Slack an interesting note about Mark Andrews perhaps not running at full speed with his foot injury, but I don't know how credible that tweet is.
Yeah, I knocked his projection back slightly. I had a bunch, and I don't need to go crazy if he's not running in warmups, but I still have like at least with the field, if not more. So
he's saving it for the game.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
He's saving it for. He knows you're gonna have to bring your A game when you're going against Darrell Williams with 1L. You can't let up.
Full 1L Darrell. That's what I always call him.
I hope he ends up like somehow. I hope he ends up the chalkiest running back and he gets those 2 touches.
I hope
that would make me happy.
Honestly. I know that I'm gonna regret that I even put him in. I'll probably just vulture a touchdown or something, and I'll be fine. I'm just realizing that in 6 minutes I'm gonna cut the grass.
You're gonna cut the grass?
Yeah, I have a chore.
Yeah. Sundays are for the mowing of lawns. Yes.
Yeah, that's the new Barstool shirt, right?
That's for the new dad core line.
Yeah.
Sundays for mowing lawns and hating Darrell Williams with 1L.
Exactly. That's what Sundays are for.
All right, let's see. Check the chat for any questions here. I guess we should talk about defense real fast because the wide receivers here, they're spread out. We talked about most of these guys as a function of the stacks that they're going to be with. So, obviously your wide receiver should be stacks. I think we're comfortable. I'm comfortable with Aguilar, but certainly going to be very chalky today. Let's see. Defenses, I guess, one more time. Cowboys, Patriots, which would be your top on the week?
I have more Cowboys than Patriots.
Okay. I've got more Patriots than Cowboys on DK, but that's a $500 savings, which is pretty big, I think.
They're the same price on Fantasy Draft.
Yeah. At that, I agree then. I could see why you'd have more Cowboys then.
But I mean, it's not like by anything substantial. They are 2 of the 7 that I have.
Yeah, I agree. Matthew Protowell asking, anyone think Pittsburgh is going to be within spread or win? I actually think Pittsburgh. So I've heard some smart people talk up Pittsburgh and Mason Rudolph in particular this week. San Francisco worries me because they've been covering receivers really well and limiting passing production overall really well. But I do think San Francisco could be a bit sneaky, and their defense Pittsburgh could be a bit sneaky, and their defense also is one of Osmo's better value ones on the week, and they're very cheap. So I have some Pittsburgh defense, and I do have a good amount of James Washington in the hopes that he does kind of come along. Are you getting any Mason Rudolph? Are you getting any of the cheap young QBs at all this week?
No. 0.
I figured you would. Okay. Not even Kyle Allen?
One lineup of Kyle Allen.
All right, I'll take it. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Any Josh Allen?
One.
All right. We're getting there. Those Allen boys.
Those Allen boys.
That makes me happy that you got some, though. I have a lot of Kyle Allen and a good amount of Josh. Good spot for Josh this week, even though Josh is not getting the touts because it's not as perfect of a spot as it was last week. But still, Cincinnati's coverage, very bad as we saw versus San Francisco last week. Could be a spot where Josh Allen goes off.
Us Joshes need to stick together.
You do, especially versus the onslaught of Lamar backers.
Yeah.
You got to defend your big arm QB with the same first name.
Liverpool's got the ball in the box. Decent cross. At least in 3 minutes, I get to actually watch this. That's the real football today. Started at 9 a.m. Eastern time.
Also, guys, hit that like button before you go, please. Obviously, everybody's going to be heading out to watch their games of choice, but the likes help us keep the lights on. So show a little love and hit that like button for us, por favor, as we do appreciate it very much. Nothing good in the chat. People just talking. Zeke or McCaffrey? But if you had to pick one, who would you pick out of Zeke and McCaffrey?
McCaffrey.
I would go Zeke, but it's close. And I know, and Josh mentioned all the risks earlier. I get it, but I'd still go Zeke.
Yeah, it's not. You shouldn't be comfortable making that choice.
No, yeah. You have to assume too, as Josh mentioned earlier, the Cardinals are going to be in that game, and the Panthers should be able to hang in there. But there's some risk that maybe Kyle Allen just doesn't have it. I think he does. I think he has enough to get there. But I find it hard to believe Zeke doesn't have. Find it hard to believe Zeke doesn't put Josh at the pay window for our 100-yard TD game this year.
I'm with you. Look, I think we're naming the two best running back options overall today. So to pick one and not the other is not an indictment on the second one.
I agree. Josh Allen or Carson Wentz for a GPP, which would be more appealing, assuming that they're stacking them up?
Josh Allen.
Yeah, I think so too. The ownership on Philly stack is going to be really high, and you can maybe get those guys and get a different QB in there.
Carson Wentz in cash, sure.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, I'd probably find a better quarterback at that point since it's cash, but I don't need Wentz in a GPP with the other 400,000 people that are going to have him with Aguilar and one of those other Philly assholes.
Luis Caliste in the YouTube chat saying 8 in a box, C-Mac a bust. They did do that against Cam, but if we're assuming that Cam was a below replacement level QB with how he looked this year, if Kyle Allen is a slightly better version of that, then they might not be able to do that with DJ Moore and Samuels out there. And Greg Olsen even.
I mean, he catches passes. I don't care how many people they put in the box. I'd prefer them to take away the running plays. You don't get an extra point or half point when they hand it off. So yeah, if that means that he's just running action out of the backfield and they're dumping it off to him, I'm in for that more so than a straight halfback dive.
That's a good point. Get him out on some swings. Get him out in the flat. Give him some easy little 10 yards in a cloud of dust kind of situations could be the move for McCaffrey.
Yeah, I don't really care if McCaffrey gets a single touch between the tackles if they're still using him on every play.
I agree. I think that's fair. All right, we should be locked now. So there we go. We survived another week. We survived the hot take storm, the take quakes that were throughout the course of this hour. So thank you for Fantasy Draft for them helping us put the show on. We do appreciate them a bunch. That tournament now is locked, but go check them out every week because they're doing these Hooters tournaments, which have had tons of guaranteed prize pools, which are also going rake free. So you're getting all the winnings going to the actual winners, which is where you want to see it in the DFS industry. So go check it out. Go to fantasydraft.com right now and use that promo code AWESEMO, AWESEMO, for your free 7-day trial and your first $1,000 in rake free entries. And we have some shows coming up later today. We will have our live before lock before the showdown slate. So subscribe to that notification bell to see when Nolan and whoever is doing that show later on. I think we're currently figuring out who that's going to be, but there will be somebody there doing it later. So check out for the game tonight, before the big Rams-Browns game. And Josh, anything else you want to talk about? Go Liverpool, I guess.
Yeah, they just gave up a goal to Chelsea, but go anybody but Lamar Jackson.
dig them heels in, buddy. That's why I respect you. All right, we are locked. So enjoy your weekend, guys. Good luck, and we'll see you guys again soon. Bye, guys.